positive in space. These are a little, oh, you need a beeper? Okay. So,
Don't kick me.
some of the things, some of like the mindset you need to have. You need to have patience. Anything worth doing takes hard work and a lot of time. You can turn patience into a work in progress so that you can believe in what is trying to be achieved. You need to be able to detach yourself from everything that you've known before because, I mean, let's face it here, it's not going to be like a McDonald's down the street on Mars and such. So anybody can get over obstacles and come out even stronger in the end. If we're able to separate ourselves from what is holding us back, we can focus on what is making us happy in the present. You need to have a support system, aka your friends and your pals and your broskies. Having positive people around you is a key part to staying positive so far away from any familiarity. So surround yourself with people that make you forget what's getting you down.
You're doing great, Ellie. I love
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate that.
Kind of slow down just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just gotta go some places. Okay, you need to have tenacity, which pretty much means never give up. And along with all the positive attitude and stuff like that, there's some like key requirements to be able to get up in the Mars business and stuff like that. So psychiatrists have a selection process which they kind of break down into two parts. The first round involves a set of initial interviews, so like just to weed out all the other competition, because just last year alone there was 6,000 people that wanted to be astronauts, but there was only 8 that got selected.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And then in the second round, they're like pretty much assessed, like once they get to pick the people that they picked, they would be just like any other job. You put them in scenarios and stuff like that, and you see how they adapt and how they work on that. And some things that they're looking for is they need to have really good social skills and they need to be easygoing. And some things that will disqualify you from stuff, like going up into Mars or going into space, would be any like pre-existing psychiatric disorders, or even like if you have marital problems, that could also disqualify you because you gotta keep wifey happy or hubby back on the ground. Okay. So some other things you have to do, I call it depression prevention, which is all the fun little games and stuff. You need to do this for at least 2 hours a day. You can journal. You can play some laser tag. You could read some books or board game like Monopoly. And then we have things like this, which, have you ever seen like Wipeout or anything like that? Okay, sure. It's like where all these people try to hop on these obstacles without falling off. But the thing is, on Mars, there isn't going to be a big fall because the gravity is like in half or a third. Yeah. So we kind of have an obstacle course like that set up. Hold on. Okay. So you need to have some sort of artificial sun because you obviously can't walk out on Mars like you could on Earth. You'd die. And you would have to have some sort of sun lamp or fish, actually, because it has 1,360 micrograms of calcium or something like that. And then here's something Lily put on there. This is just, I think it has something to do with the light. I never asked, and that was bad on my
It's
head.
seasonal affective
That's
disorder.
exactly what it says.
What does it say?
Intensity of sunlight at Earth compared to the intensity of the sunlight at Mars.
So there's that.
Okay. And so if we rely on the sun for our vitamin D, and it's not as powerful there,
Yeah,
Give it an extra boost.
so we would have, instead of, our artificial lighting then would be sun lamps.
Yeah.
So anywhere they go where they would need lighting, they would have these sun lamps, according to the plan that they came up with.
Okay. Up in space, there's a lot of fluid displacement, and astronauts have to pee a lot because fluids are moving around so much up there, and they're at high risk of dehydration, which can be extremely dangerous anywhere, even if you're 140 million miles away from Earth and you're home. They use compression cuffs like these things right here to help them distribute the fluids, and every 2 weeks they have to perform tests on their eyes and such to make sure the fluid isn't getting into their brain, which could,
Wow.
kill them.
Um,
Good.
Megan just mentioned, who just mentioned that? Is that Megan? Who just said that, something else similar to this tonight?
I think it was Kylie.
Oh,
Is that Kylie?
it was one of the two.
Okay. So that's a huge concern there because gravity, you know, we're used to our gravity and our pressure doing what it does down here, so now, maybe that was Kylie's.
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, and then you have to exercise for at least 2 hours a day up there because for every month you're up in space, you lose 1% of your bone density. Which this is someone with osteoporosis, which obviously they wouldn't have up there because they'd have to go through all of the qualifications and stuff. But this is what it could look like if you didn't exercise enough up there. This is a perfectly healthy little person. And so things like that happen if you don't exercise, and all that's important.
Hang on,
Okay.
you have a question.
Oh, please no. Okay.
Do you know what osteoporosis is?
Somebody gotta put me on the spot like that.
So it's when the bones become weak and brittle because of less density within the bone.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
I appreciate the question. Okay, so this is a Colbert and it's a space treadmill. And so they there's a video that will explain it.
Is it,
It's on the bottom, you see, it's in the speaker notes.
I don't see the speaker notes.
You might have to exit out of like the presenting mode in order to access the speaker notes.
There it is.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah, no, not mine either.
I mean, they must really good screen even for physical capability.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lily, it's your fault.
Welcome to the International Space Station. As all of my family and friends know, I love to run when I'm on Earth. Luckily, we have the capability to run here on the space station too. In fact, it's one of the 3 exercises that we do on a daily basis to help keep our hearts and our bones and our muscles strong while we're here without the gravity pull of Earth affecting our body every single day. So let me show you how we do it here. This is our treadmill. It's called T2. It's located in Note 3 on the International Space Station. You'll notice that the treadmill can move. It's on a vibration isolation system like all of our exercise equipment is. And the reason is because there are a lot of loads when we run on a treadmill, and we really don't want to impart those loads onto the space station. So we have all of our exercise equipment on vibration isolation system. Obviously in space we need something to keep us on the ground when we're running. What we use is a harness, which is very much like a backpacking harness, and the straps are adjusted so that the load is evenly distributed between your shoulders and your hips, just as if you were backpacking. We attach, by these rings, the harness to a system of hooks and bungee cord. You can see there's some stretch in the bungee cord, and then we can adjust and change the number of hooks that we use. Today I'm going to use 4 hooks. If I were to use 3 hooks, it would provide a little more load. If I use 5 hooks, it would be a little less load. And then in that way we can adjust the amount of load on our body as we're running. The T2 is controlled by our laptop here in front of the treadmill. And then once I'm all strapped in, I can go ahead and select a protocol. Our trainers on the ground get protocols designed for us that we can use. I'll load the protocol. This is an interval protocol that I can do. And now you can see that there's a target load. The target that my trainers wanted me to reach was a 100-pound load. There are load cells in the treadmill, and that's how it's determining. And you can see with the 4 hooks that I put on, it's pretty close to what the target load is. Click OK, and then I'm ready to run. See, we also have heart rate on display. We wear heart rate monitors. And this one, once I push start, the treadmill bell will start moving, and I'll just follow the protocol.
So they've got treadmill, they've got like a Bowflex. They only got a couple other videos, but I think we'll Oops. Oh, no, what have I done? So they have a treadmill, they have like a Bowflex machine, and and a bike. And so what they do is they try to simulate gravity as much as possible with these things. So if we're gonna go to Mars and plan on coming back to Earth, they're gonna have to do something similar to this. There was a guy named Scott Kelly that was on the International Space Station for a year, I believe. And he had an identical twin, or he has an identical twin, and so they took all kinds of comparative statistics between those two before he went up to the space station. When he came back, he was 2 inches taller. His DNA was changed. I can't remember the full extent of it, but it did change back eventually, but he still had 7% of his DNA was completely changed
So
from
maybe
being in
babies
space for
would
a
be
year.
okay on Mars.
What's that?
Maybe babies would be okay on Mars.
So, yeah, but his DNA from just being in space, I can't remember what the greatest amount was the change, but eventually it kind of healed itself and changed back, but 7% of it never did change back. And there's all kinds of other stuff about that little project that they did. What else does Lily
Which,
talk about
which
other than
DNA
exercising?
strength did
That's
it
what I was gonna
affect?
say, you wonder which was
You know,
the
is he
one
gonna
that.
have cancer later or not? Is he gonna be
Right.
superhuman later
Yeah.
on or not?
Right, yeah.
Or if you'd have genetic defects in there, if you had,
In your children?
yeah.
I don't remember what else Lily talked about on this, because she doesn't have any more slides. She
There
talked
was
a little bit
the,
about water, I
Interesting
think, but.
possibilities.
There was the weightlifting.
Yeah, so they got the weightlifting, and we don't have to watch all those videos. But they have ways of trying to at least simulate gravity a little bit up there. So we'll just finish this up real quick, like. So, what do we bring? It is estimated for this 9-month trip, and then 3 months there, and then 9 months back. A crew of 6 would require 3 million pounds of supplies. Food, medical stuff, the scrubbers for the carbon dioxide. During the space shuttle era, in 30 years, we had 135 space shuttle missions. The space shuttle could launch 50,000 pounds of cargo. So just to get those 3 million pounds of supplies into space would require 60 shuttle missions. They figure they could maybe launch, I mean, even though we don't do the space shuttle anymore, but if they had a similar unit like that, it would take 6 years just to get all those supplies into orbit around Earth. And so you would put all these supplies up into orbit around Earth, then you would get a break from Earth's gravity and send your crew on the way to Mars. So it's a bit ridiculous when you think about it, but it is fun to think about, at least in my opinion.
Just think of the medicine, I mean, just for the, just in case stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the food and.
Surgeries in space?
And ethics and, I mean, you know, because I work in mental health and I think of, I mean, you know, you want healthy people to go, physically healthy people to go because
Yep.
you have to have physically hold up longer, right? But like if you look at young men, they are, I mean, it's rare, of course, but you know, you talk about schizophrenia or,
Mhm.
you know, bipolar, I mean,
How do those things manifest themselves when you're out in space, trapped in an aluminum can with 5
right,
friends?
I mean, you know, yeah, and then how do you treat it? I mean, because, you know, what do you do about that? I mean, you know, it's really stuff you gotta think about.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
because a
think
crew of
about
6,
Choose about the,
by
you know,
the
they
time they
shoot
get
that
to
guy out.
Mars.
Yeah.
a crew of 6 might be a crew of 1,
Right, I mean,
maybe even a crew of 0. I mean, you're trapped inside a metal can for 6 months with 5 people. So that, like Ellie was talking about, you have to go through some serious psychological evaluation. Elon Musk. Elon Musk, he's a SpaceX. Josh Kapsner, Nancy Kapsner's son, Josh, did an internship with SpaceX. So he actually worked, part of the internship that he did was working on the Falcon Heavy. And I have not talked to him, but I need to get some more info from him. But this is good potential, and it's great that we're bringing this out into the private sector instead of having NASA and the European Space Agency and all these government agencies do this stuff. I think it's great that we're doing this stuff in the private sector. Saturn V was the rocket that launched us to the moon. This is the most powerful rocket that we've used since then. So that was in the 60s and 70s, and this is the most powerful rocket since. That's insane. But it can lift almost 3 times as much as the space shuttle can. But the beautiful thing about this is, the space shuttle was reusable, but it didn't have the lifting capacity. This thing has lifting capacity and it's recyclable. And last year, in fact, it was about a year ago, they launched the Falcon Heavy, and he put a Tesla Roadster into orbit. And so it went out beyond the orbit of Mars. It was designed to go out beyond the orbit of Mars and then come back near the orbit of Earth. But the thinking is the cosmic energy, since this is a plastic car, it's probably degraded now, and there's probably not much